Tonight, we're live outside the court where Michael Jackson stands accused. We talk to the journalist who broke the news.
I got a call from a source. We've got another case. This one is very strong and very compelling, and you just won't believe it.
The inside story of how the king of pop ended up in the dock.
The day after that Martin Bashir documentary, I was on TV for the first time in a long time saying, this is disgusting, and Michael must stop it immediately. It's unacceptable to share your bed with someone. It's amazing that he doesn't get this.
And the man who introduced Michael Jackson to his young accuser talks exclusively to us.
The doctor gave him 3 weeks to live, and because they was giving him chemotherapy, I arranged Michael call him in hospital and invite him to Neverland.
Tonight, we're in California for the start of the sensational Michael Jackson court case. As his fans gather to protest his innocence under the gaze of the world's media, we bring you the latest from the Santa Maria courthouse. And we can reveal for the first time the inside story of how a 12-year-old boy came to accuse Michael Jackson of sexual abuse. This is Neverland, once Michael Jackson's dream home, a children's paradise. But now Neverland is at the centre of an explosive police investigation into the singer's relationship with a child, a 12-year-old boy. We saw inside its gates for the first time last year in the Living with Michael Jackson documentary.
Peter Pan, to me, represents something that's very special in my heart. You know, he represents youth, childhood, never growing up, magic, flying, everything I think that children and wonderment and magic, what it's all about. And to me, I just have never, ever grown out of loving that or thinking that is very special.
Do you identify with him?
Totally.
You don't want to grow up?
No, I am Peter Pan.
No, you're not. You're Michael Jackson.
I'm Peter Pan in my heart.
Michael didn't buy a theme park as much as he built one, you know, where he lived. He bought Neverland in 1988, paid many millions of dollars for it. And when he bought it, we did not think it was a strange and unusual thing at the time, because basically he was just buying a large estate, and we'd never dreamed that he was going to create on this estate an amusement park that was basically for the purpose of entertaining children.
From the outset, Michael Jackson invited children to Neverland to visit the amusement parks and on occasion to stay. One man who observed life at Neverland in the early years was ex-police officer Robert Wegner. He was head of security at Neverland for 4 years.
When I first got there, it was so lush and beautiful, I thought it was a paradise. And I said, boy, this is going to be a nice place to work. But as I was there a few weeks so later, I felt this undercurrent, and I think what brought that about was the number of children that were staying in his bedroom. He has a fire department, his own, and they had to know where everybody was sleeping. There's about 12 to 14 different sleeping quarters on the ranch. So if there's an emergency, they could evacuate. Names weren't put up there, so just numbers.
What sort of numbers are we talking about?
Well, when Michael was there, it was usually one-on-one. Sometimes it was two-on-one. I first saw as high as 3, but normally it was one-on-one that stayed in his bedroom.
Wegner never saw anything criminal happen between Michael Jackson and any of these children. But then a child who had stayed repeatedly at Neverland accused Michael Jackson of abusing him.
In 1993, we received a complaint. We, being the Los Angeles Police Department, received a complaint from a young boy indicating that he was sexually abused by Michael Jackson. An interview was set up. I was present and interviewed the boy's father. I had officers present to interview the boy. Also present was a deputy district attorney who was an expert in the field of child sexual abuse, and a person from Family and Children's Services. They interviewed the boy at the boy's house. They received complaint that the boy was sexually abused by Michael Jackson. In the interview, they determined that the boy's statements were credible. And that is, he was consistent in his statements to us, even though the questions were asked differently. And based upon that information, we obtained a search warrant from Mr. Jackson's residence, both in Santa Barbara and a townhouse in Century City.
And what did you find on those properties?
we found evidence to corroborate some of the statements that the boy made.
At the height of the controversy, Michael Jackson went on live TV to protest his innocence and appeal to fans around the world.
I am not guilty of these allegations, but if I am guilty of anything, it is of giving all that I have to give to help children all over the world.
Reporter Diane Diamond broke the story of that investigation.
There were a lot of denials from Michael Jackson camp. There were a lot of charges of extortion. There were a lot of leaks from the family side saying, this was not extortion. This really happened. This was child molesting. We're going to take it all the way. In the end, of course, we know they didn't take it all the way. They got a multi-million-dollar, some say as high as $25 million payout. So we never really knew the truth with that, because in America, we decide what the truth is in a court of law, and it never got to a court of law at that time.
He had been so traumatized by so much of what occurred in that first case. He became addicted to drugs. He felt his career was going to be ruined. He was emotionally drained by the investigation, that it was not a surprise to a lot of people in his camp that he decided to pay the millions of dollars that he paid in order to have that sort of monkey removed from his back. He had the money at the time, and he would have paid twice that, I believe, to just get this out of his life. However, when you look at it from a standpoint of public relations, it forever sort of embedded in the public consciousness the notion that Michael is guilty. Because why would he pay? The people, people who are skeptical of this say, why would he pay if he wasn't guilty? Why would he settle if he wasn't guilty? But they're not taking into account all that he was going through at the time and the fact that he didn't care what people thought.
In 1999, Michael Jackson became friends with the controversial Rabbi Shmuley Boteah. He claims he warned Michael Jackson that the Neverland sleepovers had to stop.
When you ask me, what do I think about Michael's relationship with children, there are many insights, and we spent hundreds of hours discussing these kinds of things, that were actually quite beautiful when he talked about how parents have to learn to reappreciate their children, reappraise their children, reprioritize their children. I am now being asked to believe that there's a lot to Michael's relationship with children that I never knew about. It didn't make a difference, because even when I was close to him, I said, you cannot be around children. After the 93 allegations, you must never, ever be alone with children.
But with their parents' consent, children were continuing to spend time alone with the singer at Neverland.
It's the parents of these 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. They're the fans who then bring their children to Michael, sick children and disadvantaged children and people, who want to meet Michael. And Michael loves meeting children. And so you have this sort of contact between the parents of children who want their child to know Michael Jackson and Michael Jackson who wants to know children. And that's a very, I think, explosive combination.
Then fatefully, 4 years ago, Michael Jackson met the boy who would later become his second accuser. In 2000, a mother was at her young son's hospital bedside praying for a miracle. She turned to comedy club owner Jamie Masada for help.
We found out he had a cancer. Then they came to me, the parents, they needed help, financial help to take him to the doctor. I helped them financially, take them to the doctor. The time they went to the doctor, they found out he had 8 pounds of tumor in his stomach next to his kidney. They took his kidney out, they took the tumor out, and they took his spleen out. And cancer was spreading all over his lung and liver.
Did he ask to be introduced to Michael Jackson?
Yes, in one point that the doctor, they gave him 3 weeks to live. And he was not eating, and because they was giving him chemotherapy. And the time they gave him chemotherapy, and one of the way I would try to encourage him to eat, I said, I introduce you to anybody. I arranged by phone call, Michael called him in hospital and invite him to Neverland. A father was taking him there, and his father, at the time he took him up there, Michael, I heard from his father, brought a car to my office. Michael gave his father a beautiful white sedan with a TV in it. And so the father was very happy to take them all.